So just a little bit on the COVID. Vaccinations are as follows. This is according to your Polk County Health Department. There have been 24 deaths related with COVID in Polk County. There have been 59, or there are 59 active cases at this very moment in Polk County. But with that being said, there's 1,847 recovered cases that were reported in Polk County. Right now, there is a 23.7% of the population have at least one dose of the vaccine, with that being 3,271 vaccinated in the Benton area and 620 vaccinations in the Basin area. So for those of you that don't understand Polk County and the geographical problems that we face, is we have a national forest that divides us right through the middle. So we are, geographically speaking, a divided county. Now there are some people that would say we're a divided county all the way around, but it's like we said earlier. If you go back and look at the statistics, we are all pretty much conservative Christians in how that we really believe in Polk County. So with having to deal with the things of the county, we have to end up doing double services for each side. One on the east, one on the west. If you don't believe me, you can ask your commissioners that are gathered here today. And there's times where you have to look at it and it gets very expensive because we have 2 health departments. We have 2 courthouses. Everything that's done in Polk County has to be done in 2s because you have to have fair and equal representation for one side of the mountain just like you do the other. The east side of the county is 1/3 of the population of the west side of the county. And if you don't know what side you're on right now, you're at the county seat in Benton. You're on the west side of the county. So everybody, and today as I was talking to some of the other commissioners, grants. Everybody wants to know about grants. What about grants? What about grants? What about grants? What about grants? Are you not going after grants? Grants, grants, grants. Grants are a great thing when it's feasible and it's economical for the county to go after grants. Grants at a higher base percentage, though, are a waste of taxpayer money. Whenever you have to pay out more than what the grant is and all the qualifications that come with the grant, it's not worth it. But we have 2 active grants that right now the county's going after. One is a CDBG grant. That's a Community Block Development Grant. It's in the amount of $625,000. It's with Etowah Utilities, and it's for water line expansion. Now, a lot of people want to know why they can't get a fire hydrant in their subdivision through these CDBG grants. This is to try to express service or try to give service to other constituents in the county that do not have adequate water. You may not think that that's a big problem or a big concern, but last year during the drought, there was 6 different families that came into my office with either failing or failed wells on their property. Public water is a great resource that needs to be available to everybody, much like broadband, much like Wi-Fi. But I have yet to see anybody that died because they didn't have their cell phone for a few hours versus water rights. But this is one of the grants. The other grant that we have going is an RDBG, is a Rural Development Block Grant. This is one that we're trying to use to finish the show barn. Try to get some of our lighting done on our show barn. The show barn, even though it is located in the west side of the county, it is vital to the community and to how we are here in Polk County. I dare say if you go around and ask people in the county, the show barn stands out to a lot of people. I get tickled. I talked to somebody and they were talking about, they were from Knoxville, and I said something about about the show barn, and the first thing they said, yeah, we had a wrestling event down there at the old show barn. The show barn was very deteriorated. If you would have really got out and been like I was with the contractors as we were out trying to take pictures and do things, literally had a 1-inch rope holding some of the beams together to keep it tied down. It had outlived its prime. But now we have a nice barn, and I'm hoping that we can see the finishing of that and to have a fair or something like that to come up with the show barn itself. Everybody wants to know about county monies. So to date, in the county general fund from July to present time, there was $7,499,099.27, and the fund balance as of today was $5,298,780.94. If you need those numbers, It's just like anything else since I have been your county executive. All I've ever asked is you ask, and I'll give it to you. As Walter sits with us today, one of our local newspapers, after each and every one of the meetings, because you'll hear numbers come out, you can't keep up with them. And I'll always tell him and Glenn Harbison that does the News Observer, come to the courthouse, come by the office, we'll get you that paperwork. I see a lot of heads nodding. You know, that was one of the things whenever I did run, was openness and transparency. And anytime you ever need anything or you want to know something, swing by 202 in the county executive's office. Have a cup of coffee and sit down for a little while. The other day, Jed and I guess I'm going to pick on Jed, I don't know, but there was an issue and Jed hollered at us, you know, and it's about community involvement and being out in the community. And that's what we all need. We're all Polk Countyans as we gather here, but it's whenever we leave and you're at the ball game and somebody has an issue, as Commissioner Davis said earlier, that's what they're here for. They're here to hear those things for you. The sanitation fund, right now, fund balance as of now is $520,199.30. Drug control, $160,116.88. Debt service, $1.685222129. So capital projects, $77,044.06. There's a lot of things within our county budget that we're getting ready to set, and as you heard Commissioner Esplanade earlier, this is going to be a very trying time. I believe everybody knows with the impact of COVID last year, but it seemed that Polk County was the jewel that everybody wanted to come to. Everybody came to Polk County, and that was great as far as some of our tax base that was still there and available. But what happened was it put a real strain, especially on TWRA, U.S. Forest Service, and all the other things that are associated with Polk County. Who paid for that? We, as the taxpayers, had to pay for that. This put a strain on our police system. This put a strain on our ambulance service. This put a bigger strain on those things that we as Polk Countyans use. So I hope this year that we're going to see some offsets. I know everybody talks, and I'm sure you're aware if you've read the papers and anything else, there's talks that Polk County is going to be eligible to receive $3,000,000. It's supposed to be through the Coronavirus Relief Act. This is a 1,400-page document. And talking with Southeast Tennessee Development District, they told me, don't even look like that money's there, and don't act like that money's there. Go ahead and set your budget in the hopes that you are going to get it, even though we know that we're going to get something. But it's to see how that federal funded money has to be dispersed and be dispersed of correctly. Because if it's not, then the county's going to be back on the hook for it at some point in time. The broadband ready that's coming through for the county, this was all in part because the county commission set forward some of these resolutions to get ready for the broadband expansion. If you've got kids, like I've got kids, you know, it's kind of embarrassing whenever your 13-year-old daughter comes home and she's got in trouble because she didn't do her homework. And as being a county executive, you know, and you have to go tell the teacher, I don't have internet in Linsdale. And so for us to be able to do internet, anything with the internet, we have to come back into Benton. And I know for a lot of people that probably wouldn't be a big deal, but you know, when you go home and you've got 60 black mama cows that are looking for hay and grain, 30, 35 goats that are looking for their chore, 4 or 5 donkeys, I'm just saying, time kind of runs thin. So I hope that we can see this broadband expansion throughout our county. I know on the east side of the county, with the Wi-Fi that was voted on and approved to be at the ball fields, it's going to be great at times. It's going to be a struggle at times. I'm hoping that we can see that here on the west side of our county as well, to be able to have our kids access to do some of these things that they need to be able to do. Everybody talks about the school budget. The school budget's set by us, but it's up to the school on how they spend their money. I know that can always be a hot topic. The new school, everybody I see are 8 out of 10. What about the school? What about the school? What about the school? I ran into one of the school board members this weekend on the ball field and asked them, well, have you got your money? Are you ready to build a new school? And of course, what do they say? We're going to come back to the county commission for that. We do have the land available for the new school, but it's a matter of getting everything done well. I would love to see a new school, but at what cost? It's at a cost that's gonna fall back on the taxpayers. And I'm sure every one of us agrees, we want what's best for our children, but also we want to see our county tax dollars being spent correctly. As Commissioner Esplanade said earlier, come out to these budget committee meetings, come out to the budget meetings, see how your tax money is being spent. So with your tax dollars, people talk about Polk County. Well, you just imagine, and we'll use some round figures, if you brought home $1,000 a week, but I reached into your pocket and I pulled out $520 of that, and I left you with $480 to go on. With the National Forest being right in the middle of our county at 52%, I just give you the basic math of how our tax dollars work. We lose a lot of money because of the National Forest. We do receive PELT, that's called payment in lieu of taxes. But when we receive this PELT money, it's divided out into three ways. County General 101, it goes back into our civil defense, and it also goes into the school system. And if I'm not mistaken, and please don't hold me on record on this, but it was to the tune of about $34,000 last year that was received back into the County General 101 from PELT. It's a disgrace that much of our land base, and that we don't get any more back than that. Well, you might say, well, why don't you do something about it? I have. I've contacted our senators. I've brought them in and had them to look. I've contacted the Forest Service itself and done this. And of course, what do they say? We pay everybody the same percentage on PELT. Well, that's great, but not every other county is like ours. And we don't have a national forest that runs right through the middle of it. Theirs are tucked away in the eastern corners or in the southwestern corners. It's not running right through the middle and causing the duplicated services that we have to duplicate. The ambulance service. You know, I'm sure every one of you are aware that we went in with a new ambulance contract. Some people were happy and some people were disappointed. That was done because of being sure that your county tax dollars were spent correctly. If a new if the old ambulance service would have stayed into operation at running 4 ambulances like they wanted to, they were going up on an increase of over $500,000 a year. That's an automatic tax increase. So don't just take what people tell you. Yeah, whenever we first went with CareMed, it was rough. You should have been sitting in my seat whenever some of the people were calling, because they called for an ambulance and the ambulance wasn't there in 5 minutes. It took 8 minutes. But you know, whenever I took that call, and they said it took forever, but when you go back and you listen, and it was an 8 minute instead of what they thought was fast enough. But if you think that we need that extra ambulance, talk to these commissioners and let them know that you're willing for them to vote for a tax increase for you. But if you don't tell them, they're not going to know. But they are. I can also tell you this with this body of commissioners, when it comes to the budget, and it gets frustrating sometimes, but they work extremely hard at trying to find every way possible to save your tax dollars. Whether it's to cut money from a budget, from travel, or whether it's to sit and just cut back and look at what else could be cut. But I'm telling you, our budgets are cut paper thin now. So you'd say, well, what's the solution to that? Well, the ultimate solution is more money. Where does that come from? That comes from you as taxpayers. Whether it would be a new tax that would come in, or whether it would be an increase to the property tax that we do not need. Our property owners have shared this burden and bared this burden for way too long. You heard one of your commissioners earlier talk about how that he would not be for that. And I don't know many of the commissioners that are for that. I myself am not for any more property taxes in our county. It makes it hard to try to bring businesses into Polk County. So we're going to talk business for just a minute. The creation of the IED board, that's the Industrial and Economic Development Board. Today, the IED board has $127,091.42. Yeah, they had $90,000 that was sitting in a budget that was given to them at the creation of this board. But they've been working hard to try to bring industry into this county. They've also been working to try to get rid of some of the unusable land within the industrial park. And if you're not aware of it, there's 2 industrial parks in Polk County. You have one on the east and you have one on the west. A lot of the land's been chopped up over the years, so it's hard to try to find a tract of land that's anything larger than 8 or 9 acres. And I don't know about you, but I've not seen a warehouse, I've not seen an industry that requires less than 8 or 9 acres. They all require a large tract of land. The ID board meets the first Thursday of every month. This past Thursday, they met here, and the talks with them is they're trying to liquidate to try to be able to purchase some large tracts of land. And that would be for the purpose to try to bring some type of industry into Polk County. We have to have that. We need industry within our county. We need our taxpayers to be able to stay home and work in their county. There is something coming down the line, and I hope you don't hold it against me for not talking about it, but it was also discussed in one of our board meetings, and I think that company would like to be able to be the first to make that announcement. But there is some good news as far as some jobs coming to Polk County. It's not going to be a whole lot of jobs, but I believe everybody here would agree a few jobs every year is better than losing a lot of jobs at one time. And I know myself in my 42, going on 43 years of life here in Polk County, I can sit back and remember when my mom and dad's store, and a lot of the people would talk about all the missed opportunities that Polk County has had year after year after year. It's time that we start looking ahead. And it's time that you always remember this. The best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. You could enjoy the shade of it now. So let's start today. Let's start looking forward as some of these office holders and as things that different ones have been talking. I like the way that Polk County is moving right now. I like it to be able to pick up the phone and call some of our senators, call some of our congressmen. And there's a lot of times where it's things that you don't see. They've been to my house and they've been to my farm. Different people would say, well, they don't ever come to Polk County. There was some of their representatives at my house, not this Sunday, but the Sunday before last. And to me, that means something. That lets me know that they're looking out for the betterment of Polk County. Whenever they can pick up the phone and call and ask if there's anything that's needed. I believe everybody remembers last year's tornadoes. To get those calls, is there anything that Polk County needs? And outside of the one house that was destroyed over in the Chestatouille community, we were very fortunate. The past couple of weeks with the storms that we've had, we've opened up the courthouse as a storm shelter for people to be able to come. Some people would say there's no need in that. Once again, when you sit in my seat and you have 3 or 4 different women to call, crying, wanting to know the location of the courthouse because nobody in their area is looking out for them. And as I told them that night when we had 20, 25 people in this courthouse until 2 o'clock in the morning, as myself and another office holder stayed here with them, I'm glad we didn't have anything to happen. But I would sooner to be here and have this place open as a sheltering place for people and not need it than to be at the house and something bad happened to my residents and my people in my county and we should have done something.
Right.
So remember this in the days and the weeks ahead. If you have any questions as far as some of the numbers that I give out, come by the office. And as Lena said earlier, the annual State of the County address, this is the first one yet, it sure is. And I look forward to many years to come. I look forward to see what the future holds for Polk County. As my kids told me when I got ready to run, I was pastoring a church. We was heading down the road. My boy at the time, he was about 15. My daughter, she would have been around 7. It broke my heart because my 15-year-old son told me, Dad, when I graduate high school, I'll have to move off from here because there's nothing in Polk County for me. And my little girl says, yeah, Daddy, every time I graduate, you'll have to move off, Daddy, because there ain't going to be nothing here for you. It's sad. And an 8-year-old had it figured out. It's sad whenever our kids could look around and see, think about it. What are you doing for them? I decided to run. I decided to get my feet wet. It's not always been easy. There's been a lot of sleepless nights. The garbage situation of a year and a half ago, whenever they held us over a barrel And if you were here that night as that company sit right here and made the statement, we got them now. No, they didn't get us. We created 9 county jobs, put Polk County people to work, stayed at a tax rate so you didn't have to have a tax increase. And we provided you as good a service, if not better. But if you have anything, feel free to come by once the meeting's over, or come by the office, room 202 in the courthouse. If there's anything you'd like to know financially, if it takes a little while to pull it, you may have to pay for a couple pieces of paper and some of the girls' time. But that's one thing that our office will always be, as I get to serve the citizens of Polk County. We'll always be open, honest, and transparent. Thank you all for coming out.
Anyone have any questions for Robbie?
If you need a COVID vaccine, I think everybody knows that a lot of our drugstores are now doing those. I know a lot of the area ones, the Johnson & Johnson one and done. The health department still have the two, I think, and it's the Moderna that the Polk County Health Department have.
I can speak to the duplication of services he was talking about. Like, I work with the court software. I design and install computers in all the cities. And the jury software, Polk County is the only county in Tennessee that you have to have 2 sets of jurors. We pull the driver's license. That's where that's where we pull the jury names from. But in Polk County, we had to design the software to do it according to zip code. So we could get a jury for down here and a jury for up there. And it's the only county in Tennessee that does it. So,
I have your question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is wrong with becoming 2 different counties? Splitting it down the middle and this be a county and that be a county. I mean, I'm sitting here just, my mind's reeling, but why don't they just do that and have 2 different counties?
it was established several years ago. It's just not that simple. Plus, there's only, what, 30% of the people lives up there?
30, one thing's like 36% of the population are on the east side of the county.
And, you know, we got redistricting getting ready to come up. Debbie, can you speak a little bit about that? You've been looking into that.
Every time you have a census every 10 years, then you want to equalize the districts so that you've got representation that's equalized. And that's basically what redistricting does. It divides the county up so that you've got so many citizens per county commissioner. So that's all that redistricting is.
So let's get ready to happen. Does anybody have any more questions for Robbie?
Robbie, I just want to ask, we're talking about the additional funds that we might get. You know, they said, don't count on it and all like that. Will you know ahead of time what strings are attached to that money that we have to, by protocol, follow?
There are some different things, and Commissioner Espinots and I talked on this. Help me out on it, if you don't care. It's broadband, water, infrastructure. Right, one of them's infrastructure.
Infrastructure including water, sewer, and broadband.
Water, sewer, and broadband. So that's one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Also in that, it does state, because, and this is where I'll step on toes at, but I'll step all over them. We had some services that were given. My sanitation workers opened up those dumps every day and had to work on the front lines. And it also states in there that some of that money can be set aside as bonus pay to them. But when you look at it as well, you also had frontline workers, like the health department, those that come out of the county funds, the sheriff's department, you also have the road department. And so how much of that's going to be considered maintenance of effort? And if that's given one time, then that has to stay in effect. Does that make sense? So if they get that money, whereas, like I said, I'm going to fight tooth and nail for my sanitation workers, because had something happen, you know, you just imagine if something would have happened and the dumps hadn't been open for just a little while. I mean, Man, alive, if the dump shuts down for an hour, they slam me all over Facebook. But that's some of those things. I don't think any new construction is considered. So, because I've had some that's asked, well, what about the school? That won't be
And this is
considered.
the 3 million that we were talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
So there won't be any invisible strings on that for settling new people to come in. You want to talk about?
Yeah.
I mean, I just wanted to know. I
Correct.
think it's a valid question that we all should be thinking about.
Correct. And, some of that, with what you're talking about in past years, there has been monies, grant monies that was given out. I assume this is what you're talking about, and if it's not, you tell me. But there was money where grants were given out, and then if FEMA or the federal government had to call on you to house or assist, then you took that money. And so if they showed up with 2 or 3 busloads of people, and they said, now, you said you could house them, you took our money when you got some of those federal grants that came down through. Yeah, so, yes, ma'am. But to my knowledge, none of that's in this.
Just don't want any of that really small print,
Yes,
you know?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, in my opinion, since Robbie has been the county executive, I think he's did a great job with what he's doing with our county money. And we had to get new dumpsters at the dump, and a lot of other things that he's done as far as the courthouse goes. Before he took office, you couldn't even see the courthouse. People would ask Circle K, where's the courthouse at? Right over the corner. So, I think Robbie's did a good job myself, that's my opinion, as a Polk County voter.
And it's not unusual if there's a problem with one of the dumpsters or whatever, Robbie will be over there working. I mean, he gets into it.
That's another thing, since Walter likes this as much as I do. We had another illegal dumper on Good Friday. So Will Wallace, and it was Will's birthday. And so right now we have the tune of about $2,600 that I can't wait. We're supposed to go tomorrow. And it was some residents out of Bradley County that brought their trash over to Browder Road and decided to throw it out on the side of it. We're fixing to go to federal court for something that come out of Georgia and drove all the way through the east side of the county, all the way up Highway 68 to go to Schuler's Creek and throw off probably 3 or 4 truckloads of trash. But I mean, it don't bother me one bit to load up my old truck and cattle trailer and scooter up the road. I get tickled. People are like, I'll be working the dumps with my beanie on, my Carhartts, turning people away, and they're like, well, I'm gonna find out who runs this dump. And I take my sunglasses off, it's me. I'm county executive, it'll stop right here. And a lot of people don't think about that. But the way I was raised, and I think most of y'all know my mom and dad, my mom and dad always taught me, you take care of your pennies and nickels, your dimes, your quarters, and make your dollars. If you don't start with what you got and take care of it, you're never gonna have anything else outside of that. And it's about taking care of that county taxpayer dollar, because the amount they were wanting to go up, because prior to myself, bring it. We'll take it. Just bring it. And then all of a sudden, whenever I started meeting with them, they were like, oh, Mr. Hatcher, you just don't realize how much you've increased. And I'm sitting here going, the county's not grew that much. So how could we increase in garbage, because we're all pretty much the same people? Well, the answer was very easy to see when you started seeing 40 and 50 carloads out of Polk County coming into one dump site. I ran off 26 truckloads of trash one Saturday myself. 26. I took a lot of cussings that day. And they told me, they're like, well, we're gonna vote against you. And I was like, do that in Bradley County and go for it. Well, we know people in Polk County. And I said, well, good. And I said, you tell them what I've done, and I'm sure the taxpayers of Polk County will appreciate what we've done. But that's just some of the things, but I do appreciate that, and I appreciate it, like what Lita said.
Well, they didn't care to spend our money, did they?
No, they didn't care one bit.
That's it.
No, they didn't care one bit to spend your taxpayer money.
Right.
And they've got a dump in Bradley County, let them dump in
But you
Bradley
have to
County.
pay for it there.
Well, they,
Yeah.
if things keep going like it is, we're gonna have to pay for it here if they keep coming here and dumping their trash. So let them pay for it.
Okay, I think we need to give Robbie a hand.